So, hello everybody, and we're very welcome to this podcast. And this is part of the School of Pharmacy activities for International Women's Day, which is coming up on the 8th of March. So, my name is Dr. Deirdre Gilpin, and I'm an Athena Swan co-champion for the School of Pharmacy. And Swan is a gender equality initiative which all of the universities in the UK and Ireland sign up to, and currently we're delighted to have a silver award in the school. So, the purpose of this podcast is really just to chat to some women about their experiences of work and family life during the most challenging times of all our professional lives, I think, the COVID-19 pandemic. And so I'm delighted to be joined here by Sharon Hockey, by Nicola McClelland, and by Leanne Hoyle. And I'm going to, first of all, start off by asking each of you to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about who you are and what you do and a bit of background information about yourself. So we'll start off with Sharon because she's in that portion of the screen.
Oh dear, I was hoping I wasn't. Hi everybody, my name's Dr. Sharon Hockey. I am a graduate from the School of Pharmacy. I'm a pharmacist by trade, as my father likes to say. But I've been in the School of Pharmacy as an academic for over 20 years now. I think I started in 2001, so just coming into 20 years. And I am Director of Education. I look after the M-Pharm in the school. I'm also the mother to two girls, a 14-year-old and a 9-year-old, two great girls. So, yeah, I'm a mum and I'm an academic and I'm here in the school. There's my roundup.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Nicola, will we move on to you now?
Yes, hi everyone. My name's Nicola McClelland. I'm a PhD student with the School of Pharmacy. I'm married and I have two boys, 8 and 10 years old. So it has been difficult recently, just trying to juggle everything and balance life really. So
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Leanne, tell us about yourself as well.
Hi, I'm Leanne Howell. I'm acting as the teaching administrator in the School of Pharmacy and have been for the last year. Prior to that, I was the PGR clerical support in the school and have been in the School of Pharmacy for the last 10 years. I have two children, a girl who is coming 14 and a boy who is coming 7.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So I think it's clear that we've all been really heavily involved in the juggle struggle and trying to balance the joys of homeschooling. With so so I have 3 kids and I guess so if a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old nearly, a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old. So in the first lockdown, I certainly found that maintaining any kind of normality with the youngest one running about was it was just a nightmare. So I'm sure you have all found a very similar challenge in trying to get some work done, but trying to also have a bit of family life as well.
Yeah.
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 Just a resounding yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And do you think so I mean, I suppose it's easy enough to start off by talking about the negative impacts there's been. I mean, I think we've all kind of felt the pressure that there has been. I see, Leanne, you're in work today. Has that been difficult trying to manage your time to be in work?
Well, when I say lucky, who's been lucky during this time? My partner is currently furloughed, so he is at home. So it's easier. I find it easier to come into the office because if I'm at home, I don't know about your children, but my children walk past the man who lives in the house and come directly to me, even if I'm on a call or anything like that. So it's just easier for me to come in and I'm able to do that. The first lockdown, my partner was furloughed for a while and then he was back to work. So there was times where I was working from home and it was extremely difficult. I think there needs to be that separation from home and work. Otherwise work suddenly takes over every hour of the day because you think, oh, I'll just check my email. and you check your email, and then you reply to an email, and then you reply to another one, and before you know it, it's 11 o'clock at night, and you haven't turned the laptop off, or you've literally had your dinner at 6 o'clock and gone back. And that to me was putting a lot of pressure. I think I was putting more pressure on myself. Nobody else was doing that. That was me, pressure on myself. And then the mum guilt kicks in.
And I think also there was kind of a bit of a feeling that, this was a really big event and we all had to give everything to it. It was a big firefighting feeling, and
Yeah.
everybody was absolutely giving their everything, and
I
it
think
kind of,
as well, because I started acting up on the 2nd of March, and on the 3rd of
good.
March, the School of Pharmacy had their first COVID case.
Yeah.
So it was, it was
The
difficult.
two weren't related, I think we should say, Leanne.
No, I hope not. But no, it was very difficult taking on a new role at the time when a pandemic started.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And did you find it difficult, Nicola? Because I'm sure you were, kind of your lab-based research project, I assume, and, then having that time out of the lab as a pressure.
Well, I think initially, the first lockdown, my husband as well, he was furloughed, I was at home. I was able to work at home quite a lot initially. I had a lot of writing up to do, so I could prioritize that. So whilst we were doing the schoolwork, I could maybe work over the weekend because every day was just one. So there was no kind of weekend as such. So I was able to be flexible that way. So I didn't find initially it was an issue. I think it was new to everybody. So the schoolwork and then was not so bad, we were just getting on with it. And I think I do think, people that have to maybe teach 3 children and maybe their partner has been constantly working. I don't know how people do that, because initially in the first lockdown I took one, I took the older one, and my husband, he taught the younger one. So there wasn't this whole fighting. We kind of, did it together, and I focused on his work, he focused on the other, my other younger son's work, and it worked out fine. But I think this lockdown, this time round, it's much harder. Everybody's back to the lab. There's restrictions in the lab because everybody's so much work to do, but there's not enough space for everybody to do it. So it really takes a bit of juggling, so that we can have enough time in the lab doing our research, and then also then you have to try and fit in the schoolwork around that. So it has been very difficult, and then that's not, then you've got the housework, my house. That's a big thing.
You can have work, you can have homeschool, or you can have housework, and you can pick 2, and that's it.
There's no room for it. There's no space or time for anything else. And I think you do feel guilty because then the kids are at home all day, and I think we're expected to work as parents. We have work as well. They need to do that, and then you also need to get them out of the house when a time that you're not supposed to be leaving the house. But you need to get a bit of exercise. Just to keep everybody seeing a bit of fresh air. And it's a real struggle. And I think with my boys, they're young and they love the computer games. So it's like they would play all day, if you let them. So it's like it's the fight then to get them off that and get them out of the house.
And even sometimes those computer games I'm finding are quite social. They're playing with their friends.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, they're not really seeing their friends in any other way. And so I think I have to say I just more recently there's been way more than I would like.
Yeah.
But it's
definitely
social.
because they are, and they have the live account, so they're able to talk and have that social interaction, and you can hear them laughing and chatting, and you kind of think, well, what's the harm as long as they do their schoolwork, and we just leave them to it. We try and fit in a bit of exercise, and what more can you do?
Well, 100%, Nicola, 100%. And Sharon, you had the challenge of doing all the teaching and moving all the teaching and making sure we were kind of behaving and then doing all the teaching that we're supposed to. But then you were dealing with an awful lot of student queries as well at that time. as well as managing your own life as well. I mean, that must have been a big challenge too.
It was phenomenal. Looking back on it now, it's still busy now, but that first sort of couple of months, and I mean, I did my PhD part-time. I worked full-time, did a PhD in my spare time, and had a baby at that stage. So I'm sort of quite used to a manic level of work. But this overshot it again. I'd never experienced anything like it before. So although I'm quite keen to take on challenges, it was quite a job. So
Yeah.
it was anxiety. It was dealing with everybody's anxiety. That was the biggest challenge. And it helped. My background as a pharmacist really helped, because I was used to dealing with patients in the past who had that level of anxiety, but it was just now it was a bigger cohort of people. It was the students who, we had end of year students who had to flip to online assessments. It definitely was the most challenging part of my career ever. My husband was a key worker, so he was out and doing his job. So it was a significant challenge. But I would say my eldest probably suffered the most, in that she did zip. So that was interesting, getting a phone call from the school. And there's just, yeah, it's the guilt. It's the guilt. And I
Yeah.
think I've over the past year, I've just learned to accept that perfection doesn't exist, and you do the best that you can. The purpose that I found was making sure the girls were okay, that my husband and I weren't going to kill each other, and that I was going to get that batch of students out to the workforce. Because as a pharmacist, I've great friends and colleagues who were floored, and I felt so guilty that I couldn't help them. But they reminded me that there was a cohort of students that needed to join the workforce in July. So the purpose was get those students out. If they're ready to go, get them out. So once the purpose was defined, it was okay.
Mhm.
It was a bit rocky coming up to it, and just, yeah, bit of anxiety around that. But everybody was the same. None of us slept well in those first couple of months.
And I think there was no answers. There was no answers to anything. And I think that was people were asking questions, and there was like, well, I don't know. And and then what you thought you knew one week wasn't what you knew the next week. And I have to think. I have to say, that kind of attitude of thinking, well, we have to do everything perfectly, I think really, I would have to say, marred my experience of homeschool in the first lockdown, because it's like, right, okay, I've got to do this teaching, we've got to have this done, you've got to get every little pick of work done, and it was like, we're going to make sure we do everything, and it's brutal, and it was not sustainable, and it didn't matter, if there was a wee bit of work that hadn't been done for that day, what was going to happen. But I think I think everybody got caught up in this mindset that um everything was so highly pressurized that also, so I have to say that's one thing I kind of um wish that I hadn't spent quite so much time worrying about the first time, and this time it's been a lot more relaxed, and yet we've got the same level of work, which is not high done, but we've kind of, everybody's a bit happier about it, so I think that's definitely. Do you think that there has been any positive impacts? Certainly, one thing that I kind of missed about going to work is my commute, which I never thought I would ever say, because I mean, you're just sitting in a car. But I used to listen to podcasts, and I really enjoyed that commute. But on the other hand, I've started doing kind of bits and pieces now that we maybe wouldn't have had time to do. This is I think once you kind of get that division between work and working at home and being at home, kind of once you work on that, there's definitely been positive aspects, I think, of being at home more with the kids. I don't know if anybody else has felt the same, or
I would agree. I live about 30 miles away from Belfast, so the commute is on a train 30 minutes every day. But I now have found that we're cooking together a bit more, doing certain things together a bit more. Yes, it's been a bit of a struggle. Sometimes you get a bit of cabin fever, but I'm very lucky. I live 30 miles away. I have a countryside on my doorstep. So, you know, we've been able to get out and do things. And I think, yeah, that has helped us. I'm particularly conscious with a teenager and a 9-year-old, they're in those formative years. So spending that time with them actually has been really good. Yeah, yeah, I would say that's definitely a positive out of it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I would say I would take positives out of it. I think, as Sharon said, even having dinner together more often, you know, the four of us are sitting having dinner together more. We've gone out on walks. My 13-year-old in normal times doesn't want to be anywhere near me. She probably doesn't really now, but she doesn't have the choice.
Yeah.
So for the first lockdown, the four of us were together so much, and I think we learned a lot about each other. You know, now there was probably times where we didn't all like each other very much, but there were times that we laughed and we got like we did things that we probably wouldn't have done. You know, Saturday nights playing the Wii and having barbecues. You know, and I think you have to take the positives out of it. You know, we spent time together that we'll never get back, and we wouldn't have had that. And I think overall we've learned to appreciate those small things. That would be my kind of positives from it. You know, just spend a bit more time together. And because I think I had the second job previously in the events industry, obviously that hasn't been happening. So Ella and I went out for a walk in the first lockdown, and she was like, we never would have done this if you'd have been working your second job. You didn't have the time to do it. You were always busy, and it again, mum guilt kicks in, but I was doing that to provide for my family. So I think, there has to be positives from it.
Yeah. What about yourself, Nicola?
I think probably I've learned to appreciate, you know, there's so many things maybe need done in the day that I kind of don't stress now. I just, there's enough to worry about. And if something doesn't get done, tough, you know, we can do it tomorrow. You know, it's not the end of the world. And I think I just am less stressed. And you know, you can only fit so much into one day. And, you know, I think we all are on this, we must get it, you know, everything done, and we have to do this. But I think I've just learned to chill out a bit more and just we can only do what we can. And so I think that really.
I think that is so important, because I think there was kind of a bit of somebody's described it as the glorification of busy. You know, to be busy is really good, and like, let's have lots of meetings because that makes us look really good. And actually, I think what I'm taking from this is I'm being much more discerning about what it is that I'm spending my time being busy doing. And I think that's been kind of quite a move forward. One thing that each of us I think have mentioned in one way or another is the feeling of mum guilt. Do you think there's such a thing as dad guilt?
Have to ask a dad.
Yeah, because I just wonder, is that a female thing that we do kind of stress a bit more about? You know, are we spending that quality time with our kids? You know, we're working, we're busy.
Carl Malcolm is now joining the call.
Excellent. Hello, Carl Malcolm.
National Women's Day.
So, Professor Malcolm, we're talking about the impact of COVID-19.
Women in the School of Pharmacy.
We're asking Carl, do you think there's such a thing as dad guilt? There's definitely such a thing as mum guilt, but is there such a thing as dad guilt?
What is dad guilt / mum guilt?
Mum guilt is when you're worried that you're spending too much time at work and that you're not spending enough time with your family or enough quality time with your family, and that
Well, that's interesting you say that. I often, when people have asked me to give talks on my career to date over the years, I often say I regret from the age of 20 to 35, I hardly seen my kids grow up. I literally spent most of my time traveling with really big research grants around the world. And if I had to do it again, I definitely would not do it the way I did it.
That's really interesting, Carl. That's really interesting. Do you think COVID-19 has impacted your work and your work and family life? Do you think it's have there been any positives?
The difference is I don't have small kids. Of course, my kids are all grown up, so I wouldn't have the same experience as many of you with younger kids. My son is happy to spend his life and time on his own, and my daughter's now married as of last year. But I know it's affected Peter and many others with small kids.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's what we're chatting about. Thank you
And
so
I
much,
would argue
Carol.
it affects mums much more than dads, because I know that we're still trying to get the balance right in terms of responsibility at home. But let's be honest, mums still take the biggest responsibility when it comes to looking after kids.
Well, we were just talking about that, about how often the homeschool questions go straight past dad and straight to mum, and you're like, I'm on a call. Yeah, hang on. So just to move on to, because I don't want to keep you for so long, but is there anything specific or anything new or any tips that you would have for protecting both your kind of mental and physical health during lockdown? You know, did you make a conscious effort to try and, get that outdoor time, to get a bit of, one thing that I realized was that I haven't been on my own in the house for ages. And, how do you get that kind of headspace? I can tell you what I did. I started swimming in the sea. Yeah, I know. So there you are. That's that. So you don't have to have done anything as completely bonkers as that.
I started the couch to 5K.
And did you?
Yeah.
Did you get to? Oh, fantastic.
And I started that on the 4th of May last year. Not being able to run for a minute. I think whenever Joe Wiley on the podcast told me that it was like you had to run for 60 seconds, I felt like it was 60 minutes and that she was winding me up somewhere. But now I am running about 40 minutes 3 times a week.
That's brilliant, Leanne.
I think without it, I slowly would have gone mad. I think that has been my escape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
definitely.
so your time when
Yeah.
you're doing everything. Yeah.
Definitely.
That's fantastic. Good stuff. Anything in particular?
I just walk. We have a little dog called Rex who has spent more quality time with me on his own than ever before. So I'm not completely on my own. I always have Rex with me. But we go out, and I would take the girls once a day, but Rex and I go out once a day on our own as well. And I would listen to a podcast and have a light so that people can see me walking along dark country roads.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been an escape for me. Yeah, it has. And I listen to comedy. That's the biggest thing I miss. I would always went to gigs. So I listened to Tommy Tiernan and Hector and Loretta Butte have got me through this. They started that in the hen house. Highly recommend it. The language is a bit blue, but if that's your sort of thing,
sometimes you need that.
Yeah, laughter is the best medicine, I find.
Yeah. I know a lot of people have kind of watched these very serious Netflix, series, and I have to say I can't be bothered. And honestly, I mean, I don't know if anybody's watched Schitt's Creek on Netflix. That is my limit, because it's like about 20 minutes, and that's as much as I can, because I want to watch something funny and light and not something that's heavy and I'm going to have to think about quite a lot. So it's just, yeah.
You know what I mean? My husband, he would put on some quite serious, Netflix shows, and I just find them a bit too much. And like, I just want something I don't have to think about.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're thinking all day. So yeah, no, definitely, I totally understand that.
Just something easy, something you don't have to. Yeah. Plus the fact, quite a lot of those serious shows are not quite as serious as what's currently going on, and so you kind of think, oh, well, yeah, whatever. yeah. Come and have a day in the School of Pharmacy and see your documentary about that. Exactly. So I suppose the last question is that the theme for International Women's Day is choose to challenge. What does this mean to you?
God.
Who would like to take that one first?
Yeah. Sometimes it's about learning to say no to things. And I have found with my other half, who would have been raised in a very traditional house where nappies wouldn't have been changed by the father, etc. The choose to challenge is, you can do that, I can't do that right now, and we work together as a team. And for me to accept that because that person does it a different way to me does not mean that it's wrong. So I actually have to challenge myself and my own beliefs sometimes. And I think, you know, in the world of pharmacy, you have to challenge yourself and others a lot more than maybe you did 10, 15 years ago. So it's, you know, a female model of being in charge of a house and having to do everything isn't the way, that's not right anymore. That's gone. So it's, but you have to be prepared to give up, to let somebody else do those things
Yeah.
differently than you.
Yeah.
You can teach fractions in lots of different ways. It may include, you know, horse racing or I don't know, but or football, but that's okay. You know, that's you just have to. That's what I mean by you challenge yourself and let others do things, and
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and move away from those traditional role models.
Yeah.
A parent is a parent.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Would Leanne and Nicola like to
I
have a
think
wee
for
comment?
me, it's the motivation. You know, I find I love going out and I love eating out and I love, you know, exploring different places. And I think at the minute, you can't do any of that. And I find a wee bit demotivated on some days, but it's learning just to, you know, you have to motivate yourself, you know, because it's been going on for such a long time now, and I don't think it's going to finish anytime soon. And it's just getting that motivation to stay positive and just carry on, and we know that one day it will come to an end and things will go back to normal. But it's that motivation for me that is kind of the real struggle, but we'll have to do it, you know, and you have to do it for especially for the children as well.
Yeah, absolutely,
I
absolutely.
find that I've learned that, or I'm trying to teach myself almost that it's not about thriving at the minute. It's simply surviving. You
Yeah.
know, it's simply
Yeah.
making sure that the kids are happy. If it's affecting us so much, it must be doing so much to the children. Especially I would worry about Ella, and I'm sure Sharon would about her eldest daughter. You know, the social aspect of school. They're already at a difficult age. They're spending far too much time on social media. You know, but hey, that's life. And I think in the first lockdown, it was feeling guilty all the time, and it was, are we doing enough? Are we going out enough? Are we going for walks enough? You know, but I've just learned now that, do you know what? It's okay if we have a day where we all lie in the house and watch TV and eat rubbish, and it's okay if the next day we go for a 10-mile walk. You know, it's knowing that we're all. It's okay. It's okay to say, actually, I can't be bothered today. I don't want to go out. Just want to lie in my jammies. I don't want to see anybody.
And I think that's quite empowering, Leanne, because I think really what that's coming across as saying is, you know, you can choose what you're going to be challenged with, and
Yeah.
and that's it's,
Yeah.
you know, I suppose, uh, um, you know, having the capacity to say no and to say, okay, today we're not going to bother with this. We're going to take a day off homeschooling.
Yeah.
That's it, and that's going to happen because this is what we feel is the best thing to do, or we're going to give it 110% today. I think just having that capacity to choose and you know, not beating yourself up that you're not doing absolutely everything all the time at 120%, you know, it's
I think
that's quite
social
empowering.
media has been
Poster.
poisonous over the lockdown as well in many ways, because you've got these men and women who are posting how they're spending 6 hours a day doing homeschooling with their children. Now they've got laminated charts here, there, and everywhere, and they're doing the crafts and they're doing all of that, and that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. If you have the time and the motivation to do that, high five.
Yeah,
You
well,
know,
Yeah.
I 100% agree. And, you know, there's so many people that I've seen as well on social media saying, oh, you know, we're going to use lockdown to become, you know, like, you know, super fit and everything. And I'm like, you know, that has not happened for me. I think I'm 20% cheese. And, you know, it's like, but, you know, I think whatever you feel is specific for you, I think being able to say, "Do you know, I'm not going to be influenced by anybody else is quite a big,
yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that comes with age, doesn't it?
Yeah.
and incredible wisdom, Leanne. And incredible wisdom. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Well, look, that's everything that I have for you. And thank you all of you for taking part in this. We really appreciate it, and it's been really very interesting and very inspiring chatting to you all. So thank you very much.